I never thought I'd be the kind of guy sharing this story, but here I am. My name is Alex, I'm 34, and I run a small marketing agency in Seattle. I always thought my marriage was solid. At least that's what I told myself for years. But the truth? It was crumbling beneath my feet, and I was too blind to see it. Claire and I met 6 years ago at a mutual friend's party. She was vibrant, ambitious, and had that kind of confidence that makes people stop and listen. She worked in finance, climbing the corporate ladder fast. I admired her drive. We dated, moved in together after a year, and got married 2 years later. Life felt like a fairy tale, or at least close enough. But somewhere along the way, things changed. At first it was small stuff, missed dinners, vague excuses, long hours at work. I convinced myself it was just stress, the kind that comes with high-pressure jobs and growing families. We even had a son, Ethan, last year, and I thought having a child would bring us closer. Instead, it only highlighted the distance between us. Then came the whispers. A few texts on her phone she left open, strange smiles when her phone buzzed, and late nights out with colleagues. I confronted her once, gently, asking if everything was okay. She brushed me off, said I was being paranoid. But the real blow came when I overheard her speaking on the phone with her boss one morning, right before she left for work. She said, loud enough for me to hear through the thin walls, "I can dump him anytime. It's not like he's the one holding me back." My heart sank. It wasn't just the words, it was the cold, dismissive way she said it, like I was disposable. I wanted to believe it was just frustration talking, but deep down I knew it wasn't. I spent that whole day replaying her words in my mind. How long had this been going on? Was I just a fool? That evening, Claire came home acting like everything was normal, cheerful, pretending like nothing had happened. She kissed Ethan goodnight and turned to me with that familiar smile, but I saw through it. I realized I was living with a stranger. I had to know the truth. So the next morning, while she was in the shower, I checked her phone. Messages between her and her boss spilled out like poison, flirty texts, plans to meet after work, and even a few pictures that broke me inside. She came out, caught me mid-scroll. I looked at her, eyes filled with hurt and disbelief, and she didn't deny it. Instead, she looked away and whispered, "It's not about you anymore." That night was the first time I slept on the couch. The silence between us was deafening. I kept asking myself, how did we get here? Was the love we had just an illusion? That week felt like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. Every glance at Claire was a reminder of the betrayal that had been quietly unfolding right under my nose. I tried talking to her, but all I got were cold shoulders and excuses. "It's complicated," she'd say. But it wasn't complicated for me. It was painful, clear, and crushing. I started watching her closely. The way she'd text secretly, the late nights working, and the growing distance in her eyes. Our son Ethan didn't understand. He still smiled when he saw both of us, but I felt like a ghost in my own home. One evening, I confronted her again. "Claire, I'm not the man you married anymore, am I?" I asked quietly. She didn't answer, just looked away. Days later, I overheard her on the phone again. This time, it wasn't a whispered comment. It was a full conversation. "He's so clueless," she laughed. "He thinks I'm just working late. Honestly, I could leave him anytime, and he wouldn't see it coming." Hearing that broke something inside me. I realized that the woman I loved was planning her exit long before I even noticed the cracks. It wasn't just the affair. It was the fact that she'd already checked out emotionally months ago. I started spending more time away from home. Late nights at the office, long walks, anything to avoid the suffocating silence. Friends noticed my withdrawn mood. One of them asked, "What's going on, man? You're not yourself." But how could I explain that my wife, the person I trusted most, had already moved on? Then came the day when I found the real proof. Claire's laptop was left open on the kitchen counter. I hesitated, but something in me needed answers. Emails from her boss, plans to meet after hours, and even a reservation for a weekend getaway. All behind my back. I felt rage, heartbreak, confusion, all mixed into one. That night, I confronted her one last time. "Why?" I demanded. "Why did you do this to us?" She looked at me, tired and distant. "Because I'm not happy. Because I'm not in love anymore." Because I don't want to live a lie. Her words cut deep. I wanted to scream, to cry, to beg her to stay. But I knew deep down, this was the end of the story I thought we were writing together. The days that followed were some of the hardest I've ever faced. We didn't talk much, except about the practical stuff, bills, custody, who would stay where. Claire moved out a week later, taking only what she wanted and leaving behind the echoes of what we once had. I kept thinking about that morning when she told her boss, I can dump him anytime. Like I was just a stepping stone she could toss aside whenever she pleased. It wasn't just the affair. It was the way she made me feel worthless, invisible in my own life. But through the pain, I found a strange kind of clarity. I wasn't going to let this break me. I started therapy, reached out to friends, and focused on my son. Ethan needed his dad, the real one, not the broken man she thought I'd become. Slowly, I began rebuilding my life. It wasn't easy. Some nights, loneliness hit me like a tidal wave. But with every sunrise, I reminded myself, I deserve better. I deserve honesty, respect, and love. I'm sharing this not because I want sympathy, but because maybe, just maybe, someone out there is going through the same pain. If you feel alone, betrayed, or broken, know this. You are not invisible. Your feelings are valid, and your story isn't over. Claire's choice ended our chapter, but it doesn't define me. And it won't define you either.